In a playoff atmosphere, Spring, that game did not disappoint whatsoever. Mikko Rantanen's return to the Mile High City, his return to Ball Arena, met with a smattering of boos, cheers when they played highlight montage. But when he touched the puck, when he was announced as a secondary assist player on the first goal of the game, it was loud and you could hear it. The boos raining down from the Avs faithful at Ball Arena. The Avs get a stunning 4-3 victory in overtime in a game in which they were excellent, right? Second period, maybe one of their best periods of the year. They were up 3-1. Dallas scores 2 goals in 20 seconds to get the point. But Cale Makar on the ice against the grain secures the extra one, and the Avs currently sit 2 points behind Dallas, although the Stars do have 2 games in hand and home ice advantage in the first round in what is likely going to be a matchup with these same Dallas Stars. Well, home ice is still on the table, Spring.
Yeah, Dallas gets the extra point, so 2 points back of the Stars now in the standings, and Dallas has those 2 games in hand. Man, this rivalry, this is the real deal right here. This is the real deal, and it's only fitting that this game went to overtime. And it's kind of weird how it goes to overtime. Scott Wedgewood makes a series of tremendous saves, and then Matt Duchene
Who
gets a
else?
goal. I mean, of course, it's Matt Duchene, and it was Maverick Bork who had scored on the sequence with Wedgwood making a ton of great saves, and then the Duchene goal. Look, Sam Girard, I don't. It's a textbook play. He turns, he's trying to get a puck out of the zone. He turns to his forehand side, to his strong side. It's just and I need to go back and look at this goal, but it's just a good play by the Stars player who gets a stick on that and keeps it in the zone. And to Dallas's credit, they up their intensity in the final 5 to 10 minutes of that game, and all of a sudden we had a hockey game. But look, this was a game in which the Avs at one point, much like I mentioned in the Flames game on Friday night, Colorado was out shooting Calgary 17-3 when they were up 2-0 in that game. Today they were out shooting Dallas 34-13. This should have been an Avs win. It was an Avs win. Credit to Dallas for fighting. Hey, I'll pull this. I'll pull this up right here. Was 96 even out there? He didn't have his first shot on goal until the third period, where Wedgewood made a couple of good saves, where Mikko got a rebound on one good wraparound look. Wedgie made both saves. So Scott Wedgewood, once again, Mackenzie Blackwood out sick. He is as reliable a backup goaltender as there is in the NHL. And yet you didn't want to let Mikko Rantanen come in and win game one in your barn. And Cale Makar said, no, that's not going to happen. And by the way, Mikko Rantanen, he was the offside player. The Stars get possession to start overtime. They're quickly called for offside. I believe it was Mikko who was offside, which gives him a face-off in the neutral zone. Brock Nelson wins it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I didn't think Mikko was a large factor today. I know he gets the secondary assist on Dallas's first goal, which if you're going to give out a third assist, it goes to a referee who I didn't think the refereeing was great in this game. A couple of penalties called against Dallas that weren't exactly penalties. Obviously, the Mason Marchment one where he thought that he didn't trip Cale Makar behind the net, and he thought correctly because the stick was Devon Taves that catches Makar at the end of that second period. Not a great day from the referees, right? That first bounce goes off of a shin pad from the ref instead of going out of the Avs zone. Rantanen gets the puck, and they make a beautiful play, does Dallas, to score on their first shot of the net, or first shot on net of the game, as I stumble over myself. Wedgewood from that point on was very, very, very good. And for him to stone Rantanen in the third period right on top of the goal mouth was everything. You heard how loud Ball Arena got after he made that save. I don't think 96 affected the game today. I thought the Dallas Stars that affected the game most today were Jason Robertson, Mason Marchment throwing his big old frame around like he normally does. He's not quite Matt Rempe, but he kind of plays like it. He just kind of runs through everything like a bull in a china shop. And I thought Colorado, their second period Spring today, if you play like that in the playoffs, not only do you beat Dallas, I think you beat them in 6 or fewer. That second period was phenomenal.
Well, it's they're 4 lines deep now, and they wouldn't be able to be 4 lines deep if Mikko Rantanen was still on this team, and he would have, finished this season out making $9.25 million, but you would have had to account for the extra $2.75 million, look at my math, next year. You're probably not extending Brock Nelson, who wins you that face-off in overtime, who sets the screen in front of net on Valeri Nichushkin's goal. I mean, there it is, poetry in motion, everything that we forecasted and were hoping for with those two behemoths on that line together. It was true and through. Jonathan Drouin had a great game. I think it's hilarious that he gets a bounce off of a Stars player kind of in front of net, set up from Sam Malinsky. Shout out to the equipment guy getting Sam Malinsky a new twig, by the way, who feeds Jonathan Drouin, scoring from Mikko Rantanen's spot. That left-handed shot on that right side, and it ultimately does beat Jake Ottinger, deflection off a Stars player or not. So, yeah, it's, they play so well today because they're deep as hell. And look, man, Marty Necas had 8 shots on goal in this game. He had the opening goal with the tip, and, it's Necas net front. Necas can rove. We talked about his roving ability on the power play. Necas had 8 shots on goal. I mean, he had 3 slap shots on that one power play in the back half of this game. I don't know how one of those things didn't go in. I really think that the difference between Mikko Rantanen and Marty Necas is somewhat negligible. It's very close, actually. I think Mikko's a touch more skilled, but in terms of operating within the Avalanche system, playing with Nathan MacKinnon, Marty Necas, it's just as good. It's just as good.
Yeah, they're a more multiple team with Marty Necas. Is Necas the same scorer that Mikko Rantanen is? No. Does he have the same shot? No. They're more multiple. He allows their offense to do a little bit more. I think he opens up the ice because of his speed and his ability to be a zone entry monster with this team. Necas has been awesome. I saw the big hat goes to Erik Johnson this evening for the Avs player MVP of the game. I thought Erik Johnson was stellar this evening. Really, really, really good. And if that's the version that you get out of EJ, he's your 6 in the playoffs. I don't know if it's sustainable, but he was really good tonight.
Well, Josh Manson's out, sustained the injury in the Flames game, and that's why trading for EJ was huge. I mean, I would much rather have Erik Johnson out there than Keaton Middleton. So for Erik Johnson, I'd much rather have Erik Johnson than Calvin DeHaan and Oliver Shillington. Erik Johnson seems rejuvenated playing for the Avs. He didn't play much for the Philadelphia Flyers this year. It looked like his career was over, and I think it will be after this season, but he's giving it his all here in this final few months of his career. He was great tonight, and that it wasn't just a vibes move. That's why I liked it at the time. Dude's contributing, and you love to see that from Erik Johnson.
Yeah, he plays 8 shifts in the third period. His total time on ice this evening, 13 minutes and 40 seconds. He gets a little bit of shorthanded time, 1:03 as the Avs were down 5-on-4. Obviously, way more power play opportunities tonight for Colorado as compared to Dallas. But if you told me that Erik Johnson gets 14 minutes essentially against Dallas, I would have said you were. I don't know if I would have called you crazy, but the recent trends of EJ's career would have said he's not playing 14 minutes against that team. Maybe against Chicago or Anaheim or any one of those bottom feeding teams, maybe against Pittsburgh, sure, but against Dallas, no way. If that's the version you get, you made a wonderful trade by moving on from Giovanni Smith to get that type of guy, especially with what he does in the locker room for you. This was a good win. It sucks a little bit that you gave Dallas a point. That hurts a little bit. I think you should have won this one in regulation. Little bit of a lapse for 20 seconds, maybe
Sure.
A bit of puck luck against you. It does hurt that you gave him a point.
Yeah, but Raj, like I said, this is the biggest regular season game of all time. Of all time.
I mean, it felt like it at the beginning of the game, that atmosphere was unfreaking believable. Very quickly, it died down. When Rantanen's highlight montage played in the first TV timeout. You got the smattering of cheers, and I think it was like 70% positive, 30% booze, maybe as much as 80-20 during the montage. Once that went away, I wouldn't say the energy left the building, but you were able to kind of move on and just play a hockey game at that point. Before it, man, you could fit the energy in that building before that happened was no one knew it was going to happen because this is something that was unprecedented.
Well, and so, it's only fitting. Okay, Dallas gets the extra point. It's only fitting that the biggest regular season game of all time goes to overtime. And this rivalry is going to be huge for the NHL. I'd say Dallas traditionally, like when you look back at, the good old Avs teams, the 90s, early 2000s Avs teams, obviously the Red Wings, number one. Their number one rival. But I'd say number two was Dallas. I'd go St. Louis number three. And now you look, Detroit's in the Eastern Conference now. So Dallas remains. And for that to be the team that Mikko goes to, and Mikko, he talked to TNT before the game, and he said it wasn't about living in Raleigh versus Dallas. It was a hockey decision. He said it was purely a hockey decision. Okay. I think Carolina and Dallas are very similar teams. What do you think it was like for Carolina fans today? Now, they've won several in a row here. They're a little juiced up. They've won 7 in a row. The Hurricanes have won 7 in a row. But for them to see Marty Necas and Mikko Rantanen playing and neither of them are a Hurricane, that's got to be a little bit of a gut punch if you tune in to this game today and you're a Hurricanes fan.
Yeah, it hurts. I mean, if you're a Canes fan, I suppose the thing that you get to look back on is, well, you get Logan Stankoven. Can he take the next step as a true, like, big-time point producer as he comes into his prime in the NHL? The other thing that you get to look at is you picked up 2 first-round picks, and if I'm correct, a second as well over the course of these 2 trades. So Carolina in the offseason, I don't think they're getting through the East. I don't. But if you're a Hurricanes fan, yeah, it hurts that you see both those guys playing, both those guys contributing on the ice. And again, Rantanen with the assist. If he goes offside or if he doesn't go offside, Dallas likely scores and wins that game. And he's probably a big part of the reason why they win that game and score that overtime goal if he doesn't go offside. It hurts to watch those 2 guys play. But they now have a lot of ammunition to make a move in the offseason or make a move at the draft if they want to try another swing at getting a big time player. Maybe they utilize those picks, or maybe they swap some of them if the Mitch Marner deals don't end up going down the way that Toronto and Marner's camp want them to. So I think Carolina, while they bungled the situation, completely bungled it, they still came out with some usable assets. It just remains to be seen if they can use those assets to get a big time player to stay in Raleigh. And that seems like it's an uphill battle at this point.
Great moments in the third period when it was still 3-1 Avs. Mikko Rantanen took a face-off, and I must have been MacKinnon who he was going to go against. And, we saw Mikko in the past year or two get a little run at center for the Avs because they were so desperate to find center help that they were even trying Mikko Rantanen there, who's not a good center. He's not. And is very below average in the dot as well. And Necas comes in because I think it was Nate who gets kicked out. So the face-off was Mikko versus Necas. That's got to be Necas' first face-off he's taken with the Avs. Might be the first face-off he's taken. It's got to be the first face-off he's taken in some time. I mean, that dude is a true winger, Marty Necas. And he beat Mikko Rantanen. He won the face-off against Mikko Rantanen. So that was a little LOL moments for me. But look, the Stars are gonna get wins in this rivalry. It's going to happen. But I think we saw today Mikko, he didn't love the chemistry with Carolina. It felt a little off. Not seeing it so far with Dallas either. Not seeing an instant fix here. In 4 games, with Mikko as a Dallas Star, they're 1-3. Their one win was in Vancouver, a Vancouver team that I think is very average this season. it's looking like a repeat of Carolina so far.
So he played pretty heavily with Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson tonight. And I do think that's the best possible combination for Dallas to play him with, because it gives him an ultra speedy player in the middle of the ice, much like Nathan MacKinnon. While Rupe Hintz is a discount version of Nathan MacKinnon in terms of like what he can do completely in the game of hockey, he, for all intents and purposes of this creation of a line, he does the one thing that Nathan MacKinnon does, which is push pace, right? So they have a fast guy. They have a player in Jason Robertson who will go and win pucks and utilize his body. It's funny, Jason Robertson is, I'm still waiting for him to do something. I'm still waiting for him to take that next step. And right now, what I've been seeing for a guy who's ultra skilled, I don't see the boom in points, but what I do see is Jamie Benn rubbing off on him and Mason Marchment rubbing off on him, because Jason Robertson isn't afraid to throw that big frame around. Like he throws bodies, and he's cool with going into corners and winning pucks. So that's the type of Valeri Nichushkin role. If you're going to create that three-headed monster line of MacKinnon, Nichushkin, Rantanen, Dallas is doing their best to make that up with the pieces that they have. It's going to take some time for them to gel. I'm not going to say it's a failure. The Avs won the breakup for now. Like, this is the first time that you've been out at the bar and you've seen your ex. And you know what? You looked hotter. Like, she was a drunken mess and she looked like a joke. And you went home with some girl at the bar and you got to go, see, I'm going to be okay. Does that mean that your ex is going to always be a drunken mess and never, get married and have kids? No, that's not necessarily the case. That could very well happen. But as of right now, you're feeling great. Like, you wake up the next morning, you go, fuck yeah, I'm good. She's not.
Yeah, I don't see it changing. He played with Aho in Carolina as his centerman. He's playing with Rupe Hintz now. Those are good players. Those are not Nathan MacKinnon. So I am curious to see how Mikko's production, how it plays out. Not playing with Nate. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Marty Necas's numbers be striking similar to Mikko Rantanen's in the coming years. But look, Mikko's a hell of a player. Wouldn't be surprised if he could prove me wrong. But he's going to have to carry it now. He has to carry it now. He has to be the Batman, the alpha, the number one. And I excuses around for what happened in Carolina, fine. First 4 games here in Dallas, like I said, 1-3. Can Mikko Rantanen be that guy who, when his team needs him to put them on his back, he will do it? And I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic that he will be that level of player.
Let's hear from Mikko Rantanen for the first time as a visiting player inside the Ball Arena visiting locker room.
Different for sure, and emotional being on this side. First time especially. It's always gonna be the most emotional, and obviously the video and the reception from the fans. I'll never forget that. The fans are on my back for 10 years, so it means a lot. So thank you.
What did you think of the tribute, and did you know it was coming?
Well, I had a feeling, usually that's how it goes, right? So, yeah, it was great. The fans' reaction was great, so thankful for that.
Is it special to be back for Nathan MacKinnon's ceremony, celebrating his 1,000th point?
Yeah, I think so. He's obviously a good friend of mine and long-time teammate, so happy for him. I texted him last week when he got 1,000, so happy for him, and well-deserved ceremony and reception from the fans, so I was happy to see that for sure.
How nice was it to just get on the board early in that game, assisting on Robertson's goal there real quick?
Yeah, it was a good start for us. I think get the first goal is big against Colorado. I know that for sure, and I think maybe 5 penalties. And we only had 1 power play, so it was 5-1 difference on there. So I think maybe they got momentum back from that a little bit. First we didn't play maybe enough 5-on-5, but that's what happens sometimes. It's sometimes calls go against you, and that's how it is.
It seems like it has all the makings for a good playoff series.
For sure, yeah, for sure. It's two good teams, and I think they played better than us for sure. Especially second period, they were all over us. So it will be a good one for sure.
How will you remember this day?
Sorry?
How will you remember this day?
How will I remember it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll remember it the rest of my life. It's only one time you come back here, and that was the first time, and very special moment to get the video and the fans. Like I said many times, the reception from them. So it was great. I'm gonna remember it for a long time.
You ended up on a great team. You get paid with the big contract. Do you ever wonder, like, what if you should have ended up just staying here, or you feel like maybe this is just the way it was ultimately all going to happen, even though it's been a weird 6 weeks for you?
Yeah, well, I kind of went through it yesterday. So
right.
Yeah, so I went through it yesterday, so it was pretty. I opened it up, all the facts there were so, but for sure, emotional to come back.
Did you see the teammates last night? Did you able to see your teammates last night?
Yeah.
Former teammates.
I was.
Me.
Yeah. I was. I saw them for dinner.
How are your teammates here rallied around you and support, especially leading up to a night like this that might have a little bit of emotion for you?
Yeah, well, obviously last night was great to see some of the guys and get together. Haven't seen them face to face since, only a couple of guys. So it was fun to get together and then play against them is not that fun because they're obviously good players and good team.
That's Mikko Rantanen, him addressing the media after the Stars 4-3 loss at the hands of your Colorado Avalanche in overtime. Cale Makar, the game winner. Rantanen did go to dinner with a handful of his Avs teammates that he won a cup with back in 2022, but those are his post-game thoughts. I didn't expect him to really open up on the contract stuff. He did address that yesterday, and his camp has continued to address that and talk about how, this was a hockey decision. I wanted to go play for a certain team that was going to pay me the salary that I thought I was worth. It still feels like if Mikko had the opportunity to do this again, if he could rewind 6 weeks or however long it was ago when the Avs made this trade, I think if he were given the opportunity, if he were to give himself the Adam Sandler click remote, he'd go back and he'd sign the contract.
Yeah, some of his comments yesterday don't quite add up with reports that we've had over, numbers he was offered, what he wanted / what his agent wanted, whatever. It's done. I enjoyed hearing from Mikko there, because what I was going to get at before we heard from Mikko, talking about him now being the man on a team, which he was for a short stint in Carolina, and now once again here in Dallas, is, it's time to be a leader. It's time to, reports of him pouting and, being depressed in Carolina. It's time to be a leader. It is time to, you got to talk to the media. You're the face of the team. When the team's struggling, they come to you. They would come to Nate when it was the Avs. They would come to Mikko, they would come to Cale, but they would come to Nate. That's who they came to. Now it's your turn. And I thought he handled that well. That's, I'm sure, a tough loss for him. So look, I'm rooting for him. I am, because overall, this is tremendous for the NHL. It really is. And the Avs are a better team because of it. Look, it's possible that, Mikko said yesterday, and I have this quote up here, 6 weeks before the trade deadline, we were still negotiating with the Avalanche at that point, and I felt at that time I needed to talk to the front office, which I did face-to-face. I told them I'll be flexible, and I want to play here for a long time. Then a couple days later, they traded me. Okay, it's possible that, look at what's going on with the Nuggets right now. They need some depth. It's possible that one way or another, the Avs were like, man, even at 11-7-5, even at 12, we need depth. And we just can't have Mikko Rantanen on this team if we are going to have the depth that we need to compete, because we have the stars. You only really need 2 stars. They got Nate, they got Cale. Did they really need a third star? No, they need to fill out 4 lines and 6 Ds. and 2 tendies, as Scott Wedgewood said. It was time, one way or another, for the Avs to move on from Mikko Rantanen. And I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him with the Dallas Stars. I want him to evolve into a leader and one of the true stars of this league. It'll help the league overall.
Yeah, I definitely think that the situation the Avs came out, they're a better hockey club as a result. It's tough to actually make that work, right? There's a reason why superstars don't get traded or moved on from all that often in this league, because it's really difficult to do what Chris McFarland did. And that is lose 55 goals, lose I wouldn't say perennial, but as of right now in the middle of his prime, a guy who is going to be sniffing 100 points pretty much every single year for the next 3 seasons, and the few seasons prior to that. It's really difficult to make your team better when you're going to lose those guys. Just look at the New York Islanders when they lost John Tavares in the middle of his prime. They went from being relevant. They kind of went from being, you know who they were with John Tavares? They're kind of the Carolina Hurricanes. They were always right there. They could never just find a way to punch through. They actually were in a couple of Eastern Conference finals. They lose John Tavares, and they lost all credibility. They never got back there. It's really difficult to do what McFarland did. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not you can extend that into next year, the year after, and into the future to continue this cup window with Makar and MacKinnon, right? There's a lot of work to be done in the offseason trying to figure out how you're going to fit all those guys under the cap, mainly a second line center in Brock Nelson, who's due a big time pay upgrade. He looks like he fits, right? And it looks like he wants to win and be on a team that is very close to winning. And that's what the Avs are. Again, I said the second period, if you play like that, I think you can beat Dallas in 6 games. The Stars are good, man. That is going to be a hell of a playoff series. You win in overtime, you win the season series. Dallas got one, you got one, then you get the extra one in overtime. It's going to be really good. You got to be healthy to beat them. And Spring, you've said it many, many times, and I didn't know if I really believed it. If Val Nichushkin's in the lineup last year for the whole series, they win the series in 6, not even 7.
Oh, he's an amazing player.
He is absolutely everything to this team. 13-0-1 their last 14 games with that player.
The fact that he's about half the price of Mikko Rantanen is absolutely criminal. It's a bargain for the Avalanche. But yeah, I'll take it all for cap sakes, for the Avalanche sake. I'll take it all day. Yeah, it'll look different in the playoffs. The Stars didn't have Miro Heiskanen. And I think Raj, he'll be back for the playoffs. I think Heiskanen will be back.
They expect him to be back for the playoffs. Lower body injury for Heiskanen. I believe it was a broken leg, if I'm correct. So no Heiskanen for the Stars, but no Josh Manson for the Avs. No Mackenzie Blackwood for the Avs either. That was not a decision made by the team today to play Wedgewood because he's like the hot hand, which, I mean, honestly, Wedgie's the hot hand right now. And he played very, very well today. Blackwood would have gotten the start had he been healthy. He's just been battling some sort of bug for the past few days. So not injured. Mackenzie Blackwood sick, not injured.
So yeah, it'll look a little different in the playoffs. And do these two teams play again in the regular season?
Dallas?
Yeah.
No, they're done.
They're done. Okay. So yeah, it'll look a little different in the playoffs. And it's, if you're Dallas, you got to be a little encouraged that, you were getting worked, you were getting outskated, and you fought back. You turned it up a little bit. You forced overtime. Should be a hell of a playoff series. You mentioned Brock Nelson. So they made a change. They took Brock Nelson off of power play 1, and they put Jonathan Drouin back on power play 1. Nathan MacKinnon was back to taking the faceoffs. Drouin was back primarily on that right wing. The 2-3 game experiment that they put Nelson on power play 1, and Nelson taking the faceoffs because he's their best faceoff guy now, and he has a good left-handed shot on that right wing too. What do you make of that? Do you make anything of that? Going back to Drouin, taking Nelson out.
Yeah, I do make a little bit of it against the number 1 power or penalty kill rather in the National Hockey League. They did well. I know they only go 1 of 5 on the power play, and they score on the second half of that double minor on Jamie Benn. I thought they snapped the puck around really well. I thought they entered the zone better. I like the idea of Bednar trying to find more bodies and more size on that on that top unit, you have enough with Val. You have plenty with Val, and you have plenty of, again, I'm going to use this term, you are multiple on that top power play unit because of what Marty Necas is willing to do. He is willing to sit on the half wall and take a one-timer. He's willing to zip around the zone and play a little scissor action with Cale Makar. He's willing to go to a net front. He's willing to be a bumper if he has to. So I don't think you need to force 2 6'3", 6'4" profile players in there, which is kind of what they were doing with Nelson. It's like, oh, can we do the Minnesota Timberwolves type of thing and go Twin Towers in front of net? I don't know if you need to. It just didn't seem like it worked all that much. The puck got a little bit stagnant. The zone entries were not as good. I would prefer them to stay this way. Now,
yeah, I think maybe Drouin, he's a better skater than Nelson.
Yeah.
So, and the way the Avs are playing the power play right now is a lot of rotation. So the ability to move your feet and occupy a new position quickly, Drouin is going to be able to do that smoother and more efficiently with than Brock Nelson. Having Valeri Nichushkin right now he's occupying that bumper slot, and I was happy to see him. He used to be the net front guy, and he can still play there because of the rotational aspect that they have with this power play. So Nichushkin is not only bumper, but he can also be net front. Necas can also be net front. Drouin flies around. He rotates around. MacKinnon does the same. Makar will even move a little bit. So I think it's probably just a skating thing, a get from position A to position B quicker thing. Drouin is more effective at that than Brock Nelson.
Yeah, I also think like the whole chemistry thing that's real. Chemistry is real.
Sure.
It's not just a made up term that people throw in there if they don't know what to talk about. Knowing where guys are and knowing their tendencies and how they like the puck takes time. It takes a lot of time, and especially on something that has to be so precise like a power play, because the whole point of a power play is to create 2-on-1s anywhere on the ice. A 2-on-1, so they have to move the goaltender from post to post and have a grade A scoring opportunity. That is power play 101. And if that doesn't work, then it is get the puck up 3 high, get bodies in front of the net, and try and have a seeing eye shot that goes through or gets tipped. That's how you score on power plays. And Jonathan Drouin and Nathan MacKinnon have been doing this since they were 16, 17 years old in Halifax. Like, you can't make that up in the course of 2 weeks. You can't make that up in the course of 2 months or even 2 years. Like, they have this. It's something that I don't think you should change all that often. I'm cool with them running Drouin on that top power play unit. If he goes cold in the playoffs, or it looks as though he's getting like physically bullied in the playoffs in the power play, then maybe you throw a bigger body up there. At least you've had some sort of data to come back on the Nelson on the top unit thing now. So it's a good idea, but you're in the time where you got to win hockey games now. I like the move from Bednar. I do.
Mm-hmm. We touched on this earlier in the show. The game-winning sequence in 3-on-3 overtime. Brock Nelson, after Mikko Rantanen was called offside. Hate to see that. Neutral zone face-off. Brock Nelson, Nathan MacKinnon, and Cale Makar out there. So Nelson wins the face-off, and it appeared, Raj, that he wins the face-off, and then he's heading straight to the bench because they did not want Brock Nelson out there, but he didn't go to the bench. He ended up rejoining the play. I don't know what happened there, but it felt like, as I was watching it, Raj, that they wanted Nelson the hell off the ice so they could get, I don't know, Nichushkin or Necas out there, because they wanted Brock out there for the face-off, but for whatever reason, he stays on the ice no matter. A little clunkiness on the zone entry, but they stay on side, unlike Dallas, and then Cale Makar weaves and scores. Look, Cale, game-winning goal. Thought he had another good defensive game too, throwing the body around, winning pucks off of checks with the stick. Good, solid game from Cale. Ryan Lindgren eats the high stick early in the game that gives them the double minor 4-minute penalty. And Ryan Lindgren's in dirty areas. He's skating well. I think he was a -2 in that game, but he sure didn't play like it. So another good game, I thought, from the defense overall. Sam Malinsky assist, Taves assist. Gerard had the turnover, but I don't hate that one. that led to the game-tying goal. Thought it was another good defensive performance overall from the Avs tonight.
Yeah, I think it's the main reason why Cale Makar should be winning the Norris this year, not just because he's putting up the points, it's because he defends at an all-world level too. Like, he should win the Norris. It shouldn't be Werenski. Werenski's a really good story. He's having an amazing season, but I don't want to let this trophy go back to here's the one time that Zach Werenski can actually win this in his career, so let's give it to him because Cale's eventually going to get more. I want them to go back to giving the Norris Trophy to the best defenseman in the world, like they did to Nicholas Lidstrom for all of those years in a row. Like, Lidstrom was the best player on the planet at his position for many, many years. And even though other guys jumped up and had good seasons and had point-producing seasons, you know who won the goddamn trophy? Nicholas freaking Lidstrom. That's the way that it should be with Cale Makar right now. It really should. I thought he was elite this evening. He talk about a high stick. He caught a high stick square into the jibs earlier in this game that goes unnoticed. So I suppose the missed tripping call behind the net on Makar, you could construe that as a little bit of a makeup call for the Avs. Before we continue, Spring, let's head out to Ball Arena. D-Mac was in both locker rooms. D-Mac, I hope you can hear us. I hope you can see us. Yes?
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. There's Connor McGahey.
Hello.
Say hi, Connor. On the stream.
Hey, how are you? Hey there.
Okay. Hey. There you go. You get all the live stuff here.
Veritas.
Yeah, very emotional game today. Okay, I mean that's a good way to sort of sum it up. It was interesting in the beginning. It was a mix of boos and cheers for Mikko. What was another emotional thing was the stick presentation to Nathan MacKinnon from Gabe Landeskog. And Andrew Cogliano, I don't know if you caught it, but he almost bit it coming out onto the ice, onto the carpet, but he didn't, thank God. And Gabe was very careful coming out too. But that just set the tone of what was already going to be a pretty emotional day. And that's what happened. And it was just those 2 minutes that the Avs kind of slipped up and allowed Dallas to get back into the game. And, Mikko had an assist on the first goal for Dallas, and then they just had the goal there for the Avs, and you kind of went from there. So it was emotionally charged. They just, slumped for a very short period of time. Other than that, it was they kind of dominated the game start to finish, and obviously Cale got a great goal in overtime. The big hat was worn by Eric Johnson, who that dude wants to talk to everybody for however long you want to talk to about anything. That is the happiest guy you've ever seen in your life. And then Cale Makar. And by the way, they did have dinner last night. They did. They went out to dinner. I'm not sure where. Don't know what the place was. And although they had some heart-to-heart conversations, Cale Makar said the whole, we got to air it out thing was overblown. And that really, they both, EJ and Cale said, we both love Mikko. He's a great guy. And they both confirmed they made Mikko pay for dinner wherever they went. So all that drama is done. And now you just come to terms with kind of like Duchesne. As emotional as that was initially, it eventually settled into you're going to play him all the time. And we are going to see Mikko and the Dallas Stars a lot, not a little, a lot, and in some very big situations. So nice 2 points for the Avs. They keep on rolling. It's a bummer that it's not, hey, listen, they got the points. It's a bummer you gave up any points to the Stars because you are chasing them a little bit, obviously. So, but overall, great feeling, great atmosphere by the crowd. Great calls by Connor McGahey. Did you hear the overtime call by Connor?
Fake news.
So real positive afternoon here. Really exciting and gives you a bit of a tone for what could be happening. And by the way, Jared Bednar afterwards said, yeah, okay, the Mikko factor really didn't play that big of a deal into it, and said life goes on. And it does, and that's just the way it goes. So get ready to have Mikko be the frenemy. How about that from here on in? So that's the report down here at Ball Arena with myself and yes, Connor McGahey, who's there as well.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
We're all here. All right, guys, back to you. Enjoy the rest of the show.
D-Mac and Connor out there at Ball Arena. Connor always shying away from cameras. D-Mac the opposite of that. So we always appreciate him sending video from the locker room. We heard from Mikko Rantanen earlier. I've got some video from Eric Johnson, but D-Mac I think did a pretty solid job of saying what EJ was all about. And he's talking about how it was overblown, that they were going into that dinner almost with an adversary at the other side of the table. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but what he leaves it with, Spring, is this. You get to put this behind you now. You get to move on and play hockey. And now Dallas has Mikko Rantanen for the next 8 years. I think that Mikko's going to have these types of games where he just gets booed when he has the puck like Matt Duchene does. And you know what? That's okay. Like, the crowd gave him his applause at the beginning of this game when they saw the video montage. And now, you know what? Because this is behind us, it's in the rear view mirror, we can move on. Now you get to be a public enemy.
I thought that frenemy was a good word that D-Mac used there towards the end, because, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize that, like, Matt Duchene is still very good friends with, like, Gabe Landeskog.
Yep.
And whenever Duchene's in town, him and Landeskog hang out. They get dinner. Their families hang out. Their wives and kids are all friends with each other. So from a player's standpoint, yeah, they're good. They're good. From a fan standpoint, look, it is what it is. And yeah, it goes away. The Mikko thing goes away for the rest of the regular season, and then it'll be even more intense in the playoffs. Yeah, this was like a playoff game today in a way from an atmosphere standpoint to start the game, but it wasn't a playoff game. And when it is, man, it's then, you know, we talked about, like, will somebody lay a hit on Mikko? Didn't see much of that today.
No, but what you saw was the opposite. Mikko Rantanen played super physical to start this game. Like,
Sure.
he put a hard crunch. I think it was Sam Malinsky, like 10 feet away from the Avs bench in the D zone. Malinsky got a puck on his backhand, exited the zone, and Rantanen was right there. And it was a hard little cross. Like, it's not a penalty cross check, but a lot of hits you'll have right against the boards. You're kind of giving that quick 6 to 10 inch cross check / body check. Rantanen kind of pasted Malinsky into the glass. He was physical tonight. If he did one thing, he was a physical hockey player.
And D-Mac saying that Eric Johnson will give you all the time in the world. I'll put this comment up from Sean. Do the Avs retire number 6 when his career is all said and done? That's a tough one, man. That is. Woo.
If they win another cup and he like if they win a cup this year and he retires, there's a good chance. He played here for he's 14 years here, 14 seasons.
They retired Ray Bourque's number.
They retired, and that's the reason why I'll never say no to anything. Like, people were calling me crazy that when Rantanen got traded, Sanford and I were talking about this on the morning sprint at some point over the last like month and a half. I could see a world where 96 gets retired at one point in the future, and people, oh no, it's crazy, he chose to leave. And I go, he's the 6th leading scorer all time. He has the 7th most points all time in Avs history. He has a 55 goal season. He has a Stanley Cup championship to his name. I was like, and to make my point, I went, Ray Bourque's number got retired. Like, the Avs could literally retire anyone. And I go, all right, that's fine. Like, Bourque played here for a season and a half, and his is hanging up there at Ball Arena.
Well, and here's the thing on a possible retirement of 96 is, you know, let's say Mikko stayed with the Avs, but then he just got like the yips and turned into a god-awful hockey player and sucked. I would still retire his number. The only reason that people would have a hang-up about it is because he left.
And he left, and where he ended up. I think where he ended up matters.
Yes. Like, his resume, even if his career ended today, his Avalanche career, that resume, the second best forward on a championship team over a number of years before the championship and then a couple afterwards as well, drafted by the team. Look, if it wasn't for the salary cap, if it wasn't for a hard cap, and despite the the increases we're going to see, Mikko would stay. It's just it's just a business, and someone has to go. And the Avs would have turned into the Toronto Maple Leafs if they didn't do what they did.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point about the Denver Nuggets. If the Nuggets don't turn it around and find a way to get right during the postseason, there's going to be some big time questions asked in the offseason. And the question that's going to get asked is, and it's funny, like Jamal Murray is Mikko Rantanen in this situation. They are one and the same player, and you're seeing where one team extends the player before they had to, right? Like they could have played this year on Jamal Murray's final season. So they extend Jamal Murray, and now you don't really have any depth. You wonder if Jamal's going to always be the player that either he currently is right now or he was 2-3 years ago. And the Avs on the other side, where before they had to, because they had the time, as JJ Spawn comes up a roll and a half short of winning the Players' Championship. Oh, man, Spring.
Who, JJ Spawn won?
No, he was a ball and a half short on 18. So he and Rory McIlroy are going to go to a playoff to decide the Players' Championship. He almost canned that thing from like 35 feet. There's been one birdie on 18 all day long today, and he almost had the second to win like one of the most prestigious events of the year. Where was I? The Avs trade Mikko Rantanen away before they had to. Like, you could have taken this deal into the offseason, done the Gabe Landeskog thing where you sign the deal, an hour before free agency starts, essentially. They didn't. They moved on and they got deeper. So you're watching both of these case studies play off in real time in different sports. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, if the Avs would have waited to the offseason, if they would have held on to Mikko as a de facto rental, if they didn't get an extension done, then they don't get Marty Necas and Jack Drury. And it's who knows what, now he's truly on the open market, although apparently there's only 4 teams he would have gone to. The whole situation is a little odd. But yeah, the team just would have looked a lot different. You would have gotten even the 2nd and 4th round pick that you got for Mikko at the deadline. Assets. They just, you mentioned John Tavares earlier. He walks. They don't get any assets. Even if the Avalanche re-signed Mikko Rantanen, they still wouldn't have been able to have been as deep as they currently are. So, yeah, it was just. I think the Avalanche kind of got on the forefront of it. And look, the Nuggets couldn't. Unless they had not extended Murray. And maybe that was a little bit of a jump the gun scenario, especially considering how he looked in the Olympics. And that deal got done after the Olympics. So that actually is, of all the Nuggets moves that they've made, extending Jamal after the Olympics, that might be the most puzzling one.
Yeah, and who knows if they're done right with that. There's a possibility Jamal could move in the offseason. There's a possibility Michael Porter Jr. could move in the offseason if the Nuggets don't find a way to get to like the West Final and make it a really tough matchup against who we expect to be the Oklahoma City Thunder, as I have the hiccups. If they don't make a run, they might have to be forced into doing what Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic did in a preemptive manner with Mikko Rantanen. Unreal hockey game. I think you touched on it. Really good play from Jonathan Drouin. He's the one who's behind the net that essentially creates the Val Nichushkin goal that he shoots through the Brock Nelson screen. Sam Girard goes and picks up a puck in the corner that he's able to snap across on the Drouin Drouin one-timer, where Girard's the guy that goes and gets that puck after Malinsky's stick blows up. He then finds Malinsky, who gets an assist from the Avs equipment guy, and then sends it over to Drouin. So, like, 2 of your smaller guys doing dirty work today. I thought it was a really good team win. A little negative about letting Dallas back into that just because you took off like 2 shifts. But as a whole of this game, I think Avs fans should be very pleased. It's a good win against a very good hockey team.
Cale Makar keeps a puck in the zone on the Nichushkin goal. It's just, little plays sprinkled throughout. One more thing that I should mention. This game might not go to overtime. Mikko Rantanen might not have had a single point in this game if a referee didn't keep a cleared puck in the zone
Yeah, it was
that
tough.
allowed Dallas to even gain possession of that thing. So it's a very weird ref game from getting, not a secondary assist, a tertiary, the third assist on the opening goal for the Dallas Stars, the Jason Robertson goal. And then, a missed call for the Avs, the high stick on Makar, missed call for the Stars, the Marchment tripping that wasn't. It was actually Taves tripping Makar. So a weird ref game. This game probably doesn't even go to overtime if the ref can just get out of the damn way of that puck. And once again, another thing we will look at, if the Avs lose out on the 2 seed by 1 point, we can look back on so many things now, including a ref not getting out of the way of the puck.
Without a doubt. Avs will have the day off tomorrow. They'll travel up to Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs on Tuesday evening. That's part of a 3-game Canadian road trip. They'll have on Wednesday. They'll have Toronto on Wednesday night, Ottawa for the back-to-back on Thursday, and then Montreal on Saturday. All of those games, 5 p.m. Mountain puck drops, 4:30 p.m. pregame shows. I believe Wednesday's game is on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. I'm not entirely sure Thursday and Friday. I think the first 2 games were 92.5.
No, I think Wednesday actually is 9:50, believe it or not.
Okay,
Even
never mind.
Even though it's Toronto, it's because the Nuggets play the Lakers that night.
Well, there you go. All right. So I do know I'll be on network, so I'll take you guys through that entire game on Wednesday.
And for the Dallas Stars, Raj, Mikko Rantanen hasn't played in Dallas yet. His first 4 games have been on the road. Now a 4-game we're going to follow the Avs. We're going to follow the Stars because it's all about home ice and the 2-3 matchup. Dallas has Anaheim, Tampa, Philly, and Minnesota coming to town. So outside of Tampa and kind of Minnesota, look, I think Anaheim's plucky. Philly, they're probably waving the white flag there, though Torts is always going to have that team playing hard. So somewhat favorable 4-game stretch for Dallas coming up here, whereas this is a tough little 3-game Canadian swing. Ottawa and Montreal are pretty good nowadays. So this will be an interesting week.
Yeah, those 2 teams in Ottawa and Montreal very much alive in the wild card race in the Eastern Conference. Ottawa sitting with 77 points. They occupy the 1 spot in the wild card. Montreal is just 1 point out of the 2nd spot that's occupied by the New York Rangers. The Canadiens do have 1 game in hand. So those are some desperate teams. And not only are you facing desperate teams, you're facing a team that probably wants to punch back at you in the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are currently 3rd in the Atlantic Division. They're tied with Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay has them on points percentage as of this night for the standings. There's a chance that they could jump up. It's tough, man. If you can find a way to get 4 out of 6, I think you run back home screaming with your hands held high that it is a wonderful, wonderful result. The other thing we didn't mention tonight, Spring, before we get out of here, a couple of quiet nights from Nathan MacKinnon. 3 straight quiet nights. He gets the assist on the overtime goal, but that was basically all Cale Makar. No points the previous 2 games, and the Avs walked out with all but 1 point in those 3 games. That's all about the depth, baby. It's all about the depth. When Nathan MacKinnon doesn't play well, the Avs at this point can win hockey games, and you couldn't always say that about them.
Yeah, and you know that Nathan MacKinnon is look, it's tough to do it night in, night out, right? And teams we saw a sequence today where Nate took kind of a cross check to the lower small of the back and goes into the boards, and then he takes a stink face, an ass hit to the helmet into the boards as well as a double whammy. Look, they're going to play Nathan MacKinnon physical. That's what they're going to do. They're going to try to take him out of the game, and they're going to try to make everyone else beat you. But when you're 4 lines deep, like the Avs are now, you can overcome that on more nights than you had previously in the past. And Raj, I was wrong. Avs Maple Leafs on Wednesday will be on 92.5.
All right.
So Raj will be doing pre-intermission and post for Avs Leafs starting at 4:30 on 92.5. Puck drop just after 5. Nuggets will be on 9:50 with a pregame at 7:30. But as soon as you're done, Raj, with your broadcast, we're going to pod the Nuggets up on 92.5. So you will be able to hear both very large Avs and Nuggets games, great matchups. The Leafs and the Lakers, both those games will be on 92.5 on Wednesday night.
Denver's exclusive home for Avs hockey and Nuggets basketball. It's Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 for spring. I'm Raj. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Avs win 4-3. They see their ex at the bar, and, well, she fell flat on her face, and that was Mikko Rantanen. You just better hope that she doesn't show up hot and ready to go when the playoffs start. We'll see you guys Wednesday night.